Little Mary Phagan. How do we play the piece of music? And we'll discuss a little bit of the history behind it. It's not a song that I take too seriously. It's kind of an annoying little ditty. You just repeat that little bit over and over again, and the lyrics are mediocre. I think the first three verses are pretty interesting. There's a video clip that Art Rosenbaum, or one of the Rosenbaums, filmed in the 80s of a great old banjo player named Mabel Cawthorn down in Carnesville, Georgia. Look up Mabel Cawthorn. She was great. And she is they're just randomly interviewing her or whatever, and she sings those first three verses of that song. So that's where I first heard it, and I thought it was interesting. I looked into it, and of course nowadays there's this fabricated controversy about the song in the old-time music community where people are all pretending to be sanctimonious and offended by it. So the history behind it, which is messed up history, took place down in Atlanta, Georgia. There was a little 13-year-old girl named Mary Phagan who worked at a pencil factory, the National Pencil Factory in Atlanta. One morning she goes into the factory after hours to get her paycheck, and she winds up brutally murdered. And there was a lot of speculation that she was raped, but it happened in 1913. And so they did, in the Atlanta Police Department or whatever, they weren't able to determine whether she was raped or not. But she was certainly brutally murdered, beaten to death, strangled, clothes all ripped up, and her pay had been stolen from her. The person who became the main suspect was a guy named Leo Frank. Leo Frank was a Yankee Jew from up north somewhere. He ran the factory, and I think he was locally unpopular, and so he got it looks like he got framed for the crime. They don't really know who did it. There was a black guy named Jim Conley was the janitor, and I think a lot of people think that he probably did it. He had a long criminal record. And there was the night watchman, the security guard. He's the one who found her at 3 o'clock in the morning. He could have done it, but it was a long trial. It went on for a couple of years, and in 1915, when the trial was going on, it looks like Fiddlin John Carson composed this song, Little Mary Phagan. Anyhow, long story short, Leo Frank was found guilty, but he wound up with just getting a life sentence. And he was in prison, and there was a bunch of riots, and the rioters broke into the prison, and they lynched Leo Frank, hung him. So it's kind of a grisly history of it. I think the first printed version is 1918, and the first audio recording is by John Carson's daughter, Moonshine Kate. She recorded it in 1925. So if you'd like the tablature for this piece of music, please visit us at this link up here. That link will take you to patreon.com/CliftonHicks. For a very low monthly contribution, you get the tab for this song and every other song that you see me play on this channel. You also get access to our private Discord forums. You get direct access to me, and there's a bunch of other behind-the-scenes stuff, interesting antique banjos, history, etc., that I share on that Patreon site. Also, if you want to just learn outside of Patreon and just get a standalone class, I have an online course at banjoheritage.com. So you can pay and get into that course, and you'll also get in the Discord server, but you don't have to deal with Patreon. Some people don't like Patreon. So if you don't like Patreon, find us on banjoheritage.com. Okay, the way to play the piece of music, it's in the old minstrel tuning, which used to be called standard tuning. People now call it open C, or minstrel tuning. gCGBD. My actual tuning I will write below in the description. So you start off in the C chord. So the C chord is my ring finger on the first string at the second fret, my trigger finger on the second string at the second string at the first fret. Gives you a C chord. Then you go to the G chord, which is just I drop my middle finger to the bass string at the second. And then once I hit that G chord, I slide with my ring finger all the way down to the 5th fret. Then I do a series of drop thumb rolls, and I go back to that C chord. And that's it. That's the whole ditty. listen, all you people, whomever you may be. What if Mary Phagan belonged to you or me? Okay, everybody, that's all I wanted to show you on that. I don't really find the song that interesting. The history is interesting, and it's very controversial today, I guess, in the banjo community. A bunch of fucking assholes. So, hey, learn it, play it if you want to piss some people off. Go learn about the history. There's several books about it, interesting stuff. Check out Fiddlin John Carson, check out Moonshine Kate, and definitely check out Mabel Cawthorn. Okay, everybody, thank you for looking.